Good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Lemire. I'm working at KDAB and I'm part of the Quasar development team. In the upcoming Quasar 1.3 release, we've added a new feature called the Mesh Instantiator. It allows to leverage your GPU to draw several copies of the same geometry while lowering CPU usage. In this video, I'm going to show you quickly how you can use it in your code and applications. The first thing we'll do is start up the GRTF inspector and select the GRTF file we want to use for that example. So I've used an already existing GRTF file I had around with a duck. Let's check if the default camera with the file works. It's the case. And the other thing we'll need to check is the name of the entity that contains the 3D geometry. And in our case, it's something called Quasar Entity 2. So let's remember that name. And once we're happy with our scene, we can select the code snippet to generate a base project where I'll enable the debug overlay of Qt3D. I'll request the default camera controller so that we can move the camera around. And I'll select the camera I want to use by default when I got that scene. So once I'm satisfied with that, I can save the project somewhere and open it up with Qt Creator. The first thing we can do is just launch it and check we're actually seeing something. And that's the case, except everything is black. The reason for that is because we're missing the environment map required for the PBR-based materials. So what we can do is add one, check that it's displaying correctly, and then we can move to the part where we want to instantiate several copies of that geometry. And it's actually quite easy to do with that new API in Quasar called the Mesh Instantiator. So we'll simply type Mesh Instantiator. And one of the two properties we need to know about is the property entity name, which is the name of the entity that contains the geometry we want to repeat. And remember, we looked at that a couple seconds ago. It's Quasar Entity 2. And then the other property we want to worry about is one called transforms. And transforms is an array of transformation. Basically, for each instance we have, we want to provide a transformation, and we can easily do that using the Qt3D transform and specify something like a translation maybe. So we can obviously have sole transforms. That's going to be a bit more interesting if we actually want sole instances. So we'll play a bit with the translation values so that they are slightly different. And we will launch the project again to check whether that's working on it. So I need to be careful. I've imported Quasar into a namespace. So I need to prefix the mesh instantiator by that prefix. And as you can see, we're now able to repeat 5 copies of the same geometry. And if we look at the number of commands in the debug overlay, essentially commands are the number of draw calls made by Qt3D. We're only using 2 draw calls for that scene. It might not be that great because right now the number of transforms is fixed, but what we can do to improve that is use a data model to control that. So what we can do in QML simply is give an ID to the instantiator and use an element from QML called instantiator, which is pretty much the same thing as a repeater, except it allows to repeat non-QtQuick elements. And what we will do with that is specify that we want to repeat 100 copies of a transform, which we will create like that. And that transform we could configure to use random values. We will have to add each of those transform to our mesh instantiator, and for that we can rely on the onObject added and do a mesh instantiator.transforms.push of the object. And let's see what we have right now. Right, and now we've got 100 instances of our geometry, and we're still using 2 draw calls. So it's pretty static. So what we can do is add a small animation. And as you can see, we're now animating all the transforms for our objects. And you can see that the frame rate is at 60 FPS. That's it. Hopefully you learned something. Thank you for listening and have a good day.